Well, greetings out there in YouTube land, and welcome to today's part 2 video of the 1474 restoration video series. Those of you who watched part 1 recall that after a lot of work, channel 2 still sounded awful. To refresh that grim memory, let's hear it one more time. Okay, here's channel 2 with the same settings. My first impulse was to test and then replace all of the coupling caps. This helped, but as you will see, other problems became apparent. After hearing that hideous sound on channel 2, I thought I'd check to see if it really was the reverb that was feeding through, and it wasn't. It was due to a bunch of bad coupling capacitors in the preamp section. So I just went overboard and did the scorched earth policy and replaced every single Sangamo capacitor in the circuit, including in the tremolo circuit, and this really pepped up the tremolo. So all in all, I think the upgrading to modern caps really paid off. You'll see how much better channel 2 sounds afterwards. Okay, here we go. Well, I'm still hearing a hint of the reverb. I think that's why they put an on-off switch for the reverb on the 1484s and 1485s, because no matter how low you turn the reverb adjustment over here on the left, there's still a little hint of it. Also, I'm hearing some speaker rattle over on the furthest 12-inch speaker, and that will have to be addressed now. I'll hold the camera up close so you can hear what I'm talking about. No doubt about it, there's some rattle going on there. Well, this isn't a real common problem, thank God, but it's a really annoying one when you've got a just mint original speaker like this. It seems perfect in every way, and it buzzes like a 6-pound bumblebee. Okay, I'm going to strike a low string here and see what you think. Well, there's no doubt about it. You can hear it. It even changes tone while it's vibrating. Now, the fix is no fun at all. What I'm going to do first is remove this dust cover, see if the voice coil is a little off center or there's something stuck in there. Try to clean it out. If I have to, I'll cut the voice coil loose, reshim it, try to center it properly, and try to save this cone. If I can't, I got to recone the whole thing. Before I start dissecting the speaker, you also need to check to see if those two flexible leads between the cone and the basket might be bumping into the cone while it vibrates, but such is not the case. So now I'm going to have to remove the dust cover from the center of the cone and see what things look like inside. I tend to think it's a rubbing voice coil. Listen real close. Hear that? Really, there should be no noise at all when I push the cone in and let it come out. Wow, this is a rare discovery. Look at that piece of green wire that's stuck between the pole piece and the voice coil form. You know darn well that shouldn't be there, and that's what's making all the noise. Now let's see if it's connected or not. Okay, this is getting stranger by the minute. I pulled hard on that piece of wire and it is connected. I think it might be one loop, one winding from the voice coil that came loose and then gets stuck up here between the pole piece and the voice. Well, sure enough, I extracted the voice coil from the center of the cone, and as you can see, the bottom windings came loose and got stuck between the pole piece and the inner diameter of the voice coil. So this thing's pretty much toast here. I need to check and see if I have any extra 12-inch voice coils like this in my reconing stash. Nope, as luck would have it, I have voice coils for just about every speaker but a 12-inch Jensen. So I guess I'll have to I'll just reorder a complete reconing kit for this and just redo it right. Well, the speaker reconing supplies came very quickly from the speaker exchange, and I'm preparing the basket now for to receive its new speaker cone and voice coil. And also I wanted to comment, a viewer suggested that instead of using the masking tape that I've been using to clean that gap, to use the little sticky post-its, and they're right, it works a lot better. So I thought I would amend my previous suggestion about the masking tape, and the post-its work better. You can really get around in there all the way to the bottom of the gap and clean it out quite nicely. You know, I'm not sure if these are NOS Jensen cones or just perfect reproductions, but compare the two. They're identical. The 8 bands, the same curvature here at the suspension. Absolutely perfect. Once this is installed, I don't think you could tell that the speaker had been reconed. Well, here's the latest chapter in the Cat Chronicles. Ollie has a friend, a really pretty orange kitty, as you can see, who has manners. I believe orange cats like this are supposed to be males, but despite that fact, he has very good manners. He lets her eat, he takes his turn, and he has a really neat striped raccoon tail. We'll have to come up with a name for this rascal. But anyway, it's great to see that Ollie finally has a decent friend who won't boss her around like old Tennessee Tuxedo. And as a result, we put a second house back there, a little A-frame just to the right of Ollie's house for a little orange kitty. We're going to have a real tenement going on back here. But in the winter, we like to try to keep our little pals warm. All right, the Recon speaker has been installed, and although channel 2 now is way better than it was, it's still not perfect, in my opinion. It just has some sort of a buzz to the high frequency notes that the channel 1 does not, and the reason is that if you follow the schematic, channel 1 goes directly here into the next stage of amplification, to the phase inverter, to the output tubes, but channel 2 comes over here through a 6 CG7 and drives the tank, and then feeds the same second amplification stage that channel 1 does. And it's almost impossible not to pick up some sort of vibrational distortion by sending the signal through the tank and through this extra tube. So I have come up with a plan that makes the circuit more like the 1484. And my plan is to replace the reverb intensity pot in the amp with a different potentiometer that has a normally open and normally closed switch piggybacked on the rear. So when you're plugged into channel 2 and the reverb is turned off, your signal will not go up here to the 6CG7 in the tank, but through the normally closed switch will be over here and going through the same second stage of amplification as channel 1. However, if you turn on the reverb intensity, then this circuit will open and you will close the circuit, sending it to the reverb tank and the 6CG7. Sort of an either-or situation. Here's my cure for the fuzziness on channel 2. I did exactly what Silvertone did with the 1484 and 1485, in that I installed a piggyback switch onto the rear of the reverb intensity control. So I still have the 1 meg pot up here for the reverb intensity, but back here I have a double throw switch, a normally opened contact and a normally closed contact, so that when you go to channel 2 with your guitar jack, and the knob is in the full counterclockwise or 0 position, you will bypass the 6CG7 reverb circuit and go straight into the tone controls and out with a nice clean signal on channel 2. However, when you do click the switch at the rear of the pot, you will activate the reverb circuit, the 6CG7 in the tank, and you can control the intensity of the reverb now with the knob. Turn it off and you're back to a completely clean output from channel 2. I will attach a link in the video description showing exactly how I did this and how I wired it into the circuit. This is a very straightforward modification, but the problem will be trying to find a double throw piggyback switch for your pot. I happen to have this one in my parts drawer. I don't know where it came from, but you have to have a double throw switch with normally open and normally closed contacts. Okay, let's take a few minutes break here and check out the surprise package I just received from a viewer named Jason Mitchell. It's got all kinds of little treasures in here. Let me unpack them and lay them out in front here and we'll see what we got. And what a treasure trove it is. A genuine official Radio Shack battery tester, and now you know that's an antique. Look at this assortment of chicken head knobs, giant heavy aluminum knobs, fuse holders, 2 printed circuit board devices of which I have no notion of what they're for, but look at the crazy tubes they use. Looks almost like a relay of some sort. Also an assortment of wild looking toggle switches, some with porcelain knobs on the end. Here's a Dr. Frankenstein selector switch. Look at these turret boards. Wow. Then of course the Uncle Doug approved pointing sticks, which look suspiciously like something you might eat your shrimp tempura with after you've been pointing a while. Look at these beautiful polished chrome handles and an assortment of ventilation screen that could be cut to fit. But the ultimate item of all to me is a magnificent current limiter. Okay, no wires exposed on top, none on the bottom. How does this communicate with this, you ask? It's magic. Absolutely gorgeous. So I guess I'll have no choice now but to retire the venerable not for motors current limiter I made many years ago. Guess I'll unscrew this bulb and then screw it in over here and have this fantastic current limiter for daily use from here on out. So in conclusion, I can't say enough, Jason, how much I appreciate your generosity and the efforts you expended getting these to me, and I promise that I will use every one of them I can in as useful a purpose as possible, and I really will be using this one every single day. So thanks again. Okay, I've got it all back together for about the 38th time, and now let's see if it's ready to go in the house for the ultimate sound check at the pause of Jack and Ollie. Alright, here we are in channel 1 with the treble and bass straight up and the volume at just a tiny bit over 2. Okay, now we're still in channel 1. Both the tremolo strength and speed are straight up. Now the tremolo strength and speed both at 10. Tommy James would approve. Okay, now we're in channel 2 with the reverb off. And as hoped, after the reverb switch modification, channel 1 is just as clean as channel 2. Now I'm going to click on the reverb and you will see what I mean about some reverb effect coming through even though the intensity is set at 0. And I think you noticed that even with the reverb intensity as low as it goes, you still have some reverb effect on channel 2 if you don't have the on-off switch that I installed on this one. Now let's try it with the reverb set to 5. Now with the reverb set to 10. Not exactly up to Fender standards, but as far as Silvertone amps go, that's probably one of the better ones you'll hear. And here it is with the reverb switched on, so we are engaging the reverb circuit, but the intensity is at 0. There's still reverb there, even with the intensity all the way down. So I think that added reverb switch really can clean up channel 2 if you want it to be clean. Well, that's about it for the preliminary check. It appears that the amp has excellent tone, that the tone controls work, that the tremolo works really well, and that the reverb works about as well as Silvertone reverb can. So now let's take it in the house and let Ollie and Jack really ring it out with some familiar tunes. Okay, we're all set up here in the living room with the mighty Silvertone 1474. We got Ollie and Jack all tuned up and ready to go. They're going to be playing on a single coil guitar for a change, so they'll play a few tunes and see what you think. This will be channel 1 with no effects. The bass and treble are both straight up at 5. Alright, now let's try some tremolo on channel 1. We got the speed and intensity at 5. Okay, let's go nuts here with the tremolo and max out both the intensity and speed to 10. so far so good, but now it's time to try the infamous channel 2 that's been giving me so much trouble. We'll start off with the reverb turned off, so this should be a nice clean version of channel 2, which was never ever possible before. See what you think. Okay, now we're really going to go for broke and use channel 2 and the infamous reverb. We got the reverb set to about 3, and we'll play a tune here and see what you think. Okay, now let's really go nuts and crank the reverb up to 5 and see if we can get a decent sound out of it. And now for the combo platter, where we'll do about a 4.5 on the reverb and a tremolo, both speed and intensity at 5. Okay, I can't resist trying one of our favorite old tunes here. See what you think. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm very pleasantly surprised by the reverb in this amp. I thought it turned out to be very usable, and I'm also relieved that I was able to eliminate all the problems on channel 2. So I guess that's about it for this video series on the Silvertone 1474 amp. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I want to say thanks so much to all my Patreon patrons and PayPal contributors for keeping us on the air advertising free for another month. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank the contributors who have sent gift packages and presents. And really, I look forward to having the FedEx guy show up at the door now because I never know what he's going to bring. So let's knock off now and go out in the workshop, and let's put a 32 Ford Grille Shell on our rat rod and see how that looks. Okay, so join me. We'll head out that way, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Okay, the grill shell's just sort of resting in place there. It's not bolted in, and as you can see, it's a little high. Sticks up about 3 inches higher than the cowl. So I believe I'm going to have to cut out some metal right down here, about 3 inches of metal, so this can sit down lower and also still have room for the front axle to move up and down. Okay, I've marked where I need to cut with the cutoff wheel, and I've got the grill shell propped up here and protected with tape. So now it's time to cut out this piece of sheet metal. Okay, that piece has been cut out. Now it's time to radius the corners with the trusty die grinder. Alright, and there's the finished cut. As you can see, I tried my best to make it look like it was made that way. Radiusing the corners really helped. Now it's time to do the other side. And here's the passenger side cut to match the driver's side. With the bottom of the grill shell cut out down here, I stacked up about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches of shims to give that front axle room to come up and down as it rides over bumps, and got the right slant on the grill. I had to move the overflow tank back a ways to give some more room, but I think I have the right angle here in the right position and enough ground clearance where I won't be hitting speed bumps with the bottom of the grill. Now we've got to alter the clamps that were holding that old grill shell in place. They were much longer. I had to cut off a good inch or so of length and then re-drill them, and then I drilled the grill shell so that it is now held by 2 shortened clamps up here at the top. At the bottom, I rotated the clamp from being on the inside to being on the outside, and you can see we got about a 1/2 inch gap here, so I'm going to bend this out a bit, drill it, and then drill the shell, and then we'll have clamps at the upper and lower sides on both sides of the shell. It ought to be real sturdy. And then finally, the radiator supports will have to be properly positioned, and then drill through this part of the shell and secure the support so that the top of the radiator can't wiggle back and forth. Now we're ready to apply the final touches. I'm going to spot weld the nuts to each of the brackets so that once the radiator shell is in place, you can just run the bolt through and tighten it down, because it's going to be real tough to reach up inside to try to hold on to keep the nut from spinning. These upper stays have been shortened about 1 inch and angled properly and re-welded, so they're ready to attach to the 32 grill shell. Now the nuts have been welded to the brackets so they can't spin. They're captive now, and I'll just remove the bolts and the grill shell is ready to be installed. As you can see, that grill shell makes a huge difference when we go from this to this. In all of hot roddom, there's nothing more classic than the shape of a 32 Ford grill shell, and I think it made all the difference in the world on the front end of this car. I hope you agree.